Важливим завданням організатором 26-го трирічного конгресу українців Канади було нав'язати тісні зв'язки із провідниками політичного і громадського світу Канади. Цікаву промову про спільну історію і спільне майбутнє виголосив Перрі Bellgarde, голова Національної асамблеї корінних народів Канади.
National Chief Bellgarde remains grateful for the strength and vision he has gained from his elders, and he always vows to place great importance on respecting their teachings. He is a wise man. And the Chief has an excellent memory because during the 2014 Christmas season, a group of carolers from the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress caroled at Stornoway, the home of the Leader of Canada's official opposition, who at that time was Thomas Mulcair. Chief Bellgarde was a dinner guest of Mr. Mulcair's that evening, and our carolers were quite moved when the Chief joined them in a rendition of Bog Predvichny.
Як що маєш? Дуже добре. I spoke a little Cree and a little bit Ukrainian, so I can say I'm a Ukrainian. 2019 is the international decade in the world of the indigenous peoples' languages. This is our year, sorry. This is 1 year. 2019 is the year. I jumped ahead because we want to lobby for a decade. And that's where I need your help in pushing Canada and other nation states within the United Nations to push for the decade, not just a year for Indigenous peoples' languages. Because I've said our languages in Canada are Canada's national treasures. They're not spoken anywhere else. We don't have a country called Cree, or Nakota, or Mi'kmaq, or Algonquin. It's here. So we have to do all we can to bring them back. So 1 year internationally, sure, it's a year of Indigenous languages. We want to lobby for that decade. And that's where we need to help each other. Because I heard earlier talk about how even Ukrainian's not strongly spoken as it used to be 30, 40 years ago. It used to be the number one language, right? Now it's kind of going down. But you can bring it back. You can bring it back. So my friends, my relatives, again, we have a shared past. But more importantly, we've got a shared future together.
I don't know how many Ukrainian people are aware of the shared history here in Canada. And I want to point out that at a visit to the Premier of Alberta's home, Mr. Stelmach, there's a big picture and a big painting of Mr. Stelmach in Indian headdress. And he was honored for community effort in relation to the nation's communities on his farm, on his parents' homestead.
Right.
And we in the West, we in the East don't seem to be aware of the history between the Ukrainians and the First Nations in Western Canada.
It was a shared history of Ukrainian people and First Nations people to helping survive, off the land. It was a symbiotic relationship. Like we helped the Ukrainians, Ukrainians helped us in the early 1910, 1920, 1930, 1940s to help settle the land. And I shared a story of the Kerchinskis in southern Saskatchewan, where they were basically starving. They were living in a hole in the ground with a buggy board over them, and the First Nations people helped them survive the winters. And the Kerchinskis are good friends in relationship, have good relations now with the First Nations people because of that. And then at the same time, as things progress, the Ukrainian people help First Nations people as well survive, by bringing an exchange of whether it be cream or milk or eggs for wild meat, so it's back and forth. And then I also shared we have a shared history in the sense of the genocide.
Yes, that's something very touching that you mentioned that there's a commonality in
Exactly. The Holodomor genocide, what the Russian oppression in the 30s to the Ukrainian people, the starvation. And it's similar to the genocide of what happened to First Nations people through starvation with the killing off of the buffalo. And then the bringing in of disease, smallpox to First Nations people. It decimated our people, killed our people, starved our people. And it was similar to what happened with Ukrainian people, the dispossession of their lands and territories. Same thing with us. And so I said we have that shared history.
but we also have that shared future together to provide hope.
I want to say that given our shared history and the fact that our people survived because of the help of your people, we owe it to you to play it forward. And as a member of the legal profession, I am required, professionally obligated, to know, understand, and act upon the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So I will be recommending to this Congress that we adopt a resolution that our community do the same, and that we advocate to help your community to achieve your